They built 96 homes on my land. Now not via accident, on purpose. I inherited 47 acres in Colorado from my grandfather. Paid off and pristine. Went to go to the property for the first time in 3 years and located a whole subdivision in which my wooded area was once. Paved roads, avenue lighting. Households shifting fixtures into homes they'd paid $485,000 each for. The HOA president, a lady who'd by no means labored in honest day, however, wore a Rolex like a badge, advised me to my face I was a deadbeat squatter looking to rip off hard-working households. Said her attorney confirmed the land was deserted, so adverse ownership made it legally theirs. She'd already deposited $16 million in pre-income. Right, here's what I did. Certainly nothing. Allow them to finish creation, watch them panorama, paint, deploy pools. Then I walked into federal courtroom with my grandfather's original 1971 deed. What could you do if someone constructed a neighborhood on your own home? Drop your state below. Let's examine wherein my land rights own family is watching from. My name's Dakota Flint. Yeah, like the stone. 47 years antique, structural engineer, divorced. I power a 2008 Silverado that burns a quart of oil each month. Not anything unique about me except one component. My grandfather left me 47 acres of Colorado wooded area well worth approximately $4.02 million. William Flint bought that land in 1971 for $8,200 coins. Depression technology man. Stored every receipt in leather-based ledgers that smelled like pipe tobacco and WD-40. While he died in 2019, he left me the belongings with one, observe, tucked inside the deed. Do not allow the bastards take what's yours. I failed to go to for 3 years. Divorce, 2 children in university, 7 TR paintings weeks. But I paid belongings taxes every April, $6,400 yearly. Never past due, usually online. I had the email receipts. August 2022. I ultimately drove up to scatter Grandpa's ashes, grew to become off Motorway 36 onto the antique Hearth Avenue, and my belly dropped. The pine forest became gone. In its place, 96 Mediterranean stucco houses with fake balconies and HOA mandated beige paint. A carved stone front signal read Ridgeline Heights, a Whitmore luxurious community. I checked my GPS 4 times. Same coordinates. This changed into my land. At the gatehouse, a security protect stopped me. Residence simplest. I own this belongings, I stated, maintaining up my cell phone with the deed photo. He smirked. Sure, friend. And I am Elon Musk. Turn round. Before I could argue, a white Variety Rover pulled up. Out stepped Cassandra Whitmore, mid-50s, Botoxed right into an everlasting look of slight marvel, wearing white linen that probably cost greater than my month-to-month loan. She had that precise energy of a person who'd by no means been informed. No, with the aid of anybody who mattered. Problemble, Ray, she asked the shield, now not searching at me. This gentleman claims he owns the improvement. Cassandra eventually turned. Her eyes scanned me. Work boots, Carhartt jacket, calloused hands. I watched her mentally report me beneath negative. How fascinating, she stated. Sweetie, in case you're seeking out creation work, most crews have filled their labor positions, but I will take your number. I'm no longer looking for paintings. I am the felony owner, my grandfather William Flint. She pulled out her cell phone, scrolled with manicured nails. Our Identify employer ran a forensic search. This land become abandoned for over 3 years, which, underneath Colorado Adverse Ownership Statute, 38-41-101 approachway, nothing if property taxes were paid. I interrupted. Her smile went sharp. It truly is lovely. You know just enough to be risky. She pulled out a business card, held it among 2 hands like it changed into contaminated. Brian Keir, our lawyer, he's going to give an explanation for why your declare is, what is the legal time period? Frivolous, I took the cardboard. Colorado destructive ownership calls for 18 years of open continuous adverse possession, and the squatter has to pay property taxes the entire time. If you've been paying, their claim remains born, so I am getting an injunction, prevent production. You can. She closed the folder, however. Here's what I'd do. Rather, and you'll suppose I've misplaced my mind, allow them to end building. I stared at her, What if you forestall production? Now Cassandra's organization publicizes financial disaster. Your land gets tied up in a 312 months litigation circus with 96 households who offered homes and excellent. Religion suing every person, which include you. Banks, name corporations, insurance organizations. It turns into criminal whack-a-holes. She leaned forward. However, if you let them finish, then report for declaratory judgment. You very own 96 finished homes. Cassandra's agency has dedicated textbook fraud, promoting property they don't own. They will be desperate to settle due to the fact the alternative is jail. My hands were shaking. What in the event that they one way or the other win? They may not. However, even in a few parallel universe in which they did, you've lost nothing. Your land's already occupied. The difference is whether you combat one corrupt developer or 96 traumatized families. It turned into bloodless, strategic, brutal, and it made perfect experience. How an awful lot? I asked. 40-0 in legal expenses, maybe 50. But when we win, and we can, the court awards damages for trespass, unjust enrichment, fraud, and attorney's expenses. You will personal the homes outright. Sell them, lease them, or negotiate an agreement well worth tens of millions. I had $12,000 in financial savings. My Silverado needed a transmission. My daughter's training price turned into due in January. I'll parent it out, I heard myself say. One final aspect, Lydia's voice dropped. Do not touch Cassandra. Do not submit on Facebook. Don't inform absolutely everyone except your kids and perhaps one trusted pal. In belongings litigation, wonder is worth extra than gold. I hired her that day, signed a retainer agreement that made my belly harm. September bled into October. I drove beyond Ridgeline Heights twice every week, parking on the general public avenue with my smartphone digital camera going for walks. Framers swarmed like ants. The air smelled like sawdust and diesel gas. Plumbers hauled coils of PEX tubing. Electricians snaked twine via walls. And whenever I visited, I took time-stamped pictures. Cassandra noticed me for the duration of her 1-3 week. She made a smartphone call. I should see her from 200 yards away, gesturing at my truck like I used to be a bomb. 20 minutes later, a sheriff's cruiser pulled up behind me. Deputy Torres, young guy, probable past due 20s, with the uncomfortable body language of someone caught among a rock and a marketing campaign donor. Sir, want to look your license. I passed it over. I am on a public street, officer. He walks lower back to his car, ran my plates, got here lower back looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. Mrs. Whitmore says you have been harassing her, following her, taking pics. I'm documenting production on belongings I personal. Check Boulder County data. Parcelepan 55,932,408. Proprietor Dakota Flint. Torres shifted his weight. Look, if there's a property dispute, it is civil courtroom. However, she's filed a proper criticism. If she calls again announcing you are threatening her, I'll have to take motion. Understand? Translation. She donates to the sheriff's re-election fund. You do not. Understood. He left. I stored taking pics. Through November, the primary families moved in. U-Hauls blocking cul-de-sacs, kids on scooters, the odor of pizza delivery mixing with clean paint. I watched a couple deliver a crib into house range 43. Watched another own family plant a maple tree of the front backyard. And that I felt ill due to the fact these weren't villains. They were folks that had stored for down payments, who believed they had been residing the Yankee dream. But Cassandra, she was about to learn that stealing fees greater than money. Thanksgiving week, Cassandra dispatched me a licensed letter. I signed for it on the Submit workplace. And the clerk, a lady named Deb, who'd recognized my grandfather, wrinkled her nose while she saw the go-back cope with. Whitmore Improvements, LLC. Truly is the lady building the ones McMansions on Vintage Mill Road, right? She passed me the envelope. My sister attempted to buy one. They wanted $485,000 for 1,800 square feet, dual carriageway robbery. I opened it in my truck. Prison letterhead. Brian Kemper's signature at the bottom. 3 pages of dense felonies that boiled right down to stop trespassing or will sue you for harassment. There was a image connected. My Silverado parked on the general public avenue, taken from inside the subdivision. Someone had turned around my license plate in crimson Sharpie, handwritten within the margin. Record the whole lot. I drove directly to Lydia's workplace. She examined the letter, then commenced guffawing. Not the polite type, but the proper belly chortle of someone who'd simply been exceeded a present. They may be documenting their own fraud, she said, wiping her eyes. Each letter they ship, each picture they take, every interaction, it's proof that they knew there has been a dispute and stored constructing. Besides, that is beautiful, doesn't experience lovely, feels like I am being stalked. However, here's what you're going to do. Not anything. Let them waste money on legal threats. Let them generate evidence. We'll file in January, right after the holidays, while all and sundry's distracted. She pulled out a yellow felony pad. In the meantime, I need you to get me the entirety about Cassandra Whitmore. Assets information, commercial enterprise filings, tax liens, something public. I want to recognize who is financing this improvement. I spent the subsequent 2 weeks turning into an amateur detective. Seems whilst you're an engineer, a way to examine plats, survey maps, and allow applications. I commenced with Boulder County's online data. Whitmore Development LLC became registered in Delaware. Always a red flag. Delaware companies are like offshore financial institution accounts for folks who want to hide things. With Cassandra as the only coping with member, but the financing got here from Ridgeline Capital Group, a Denver-based funding firm. I dug deeper. Ridgeline Capital changed into owned via 3 companions. His name turned into Preston Whitmore, an actual estate developer who'd been sued 2 times for creation defects and once for defrauding investors in a failed hotel project. The instances have been settled quietly, statistics sealed. So, this wasn't simply Cassandra's scam. It'd become a family business. I found extra. The Boulder County allows listed the land as previously tax antisocial, received through unfavorable possession declare filed March 2022. But right here's the thing about negative possession. You can't simply claim it. You have to show it in court docket first. Get a judgment, then document that judgment earlier than you may promote assets. They had passed that step. They'd filed a claim, then right away started promoting plenty, as if the declare were granted. This is fraud. Premeditated documented fraud. I dispatched the entirety to Lydia in an encrypted electronic mail due to the fact. By way of now, I discovered that developers, just like the whites, have approaches of creating human beings as lives tough. She referred to as me an hour later. Dakota, this is better than I idea. Preston Whitmore has a pattern. If we are able to prove he knew approximately your ownership and proceeded besides, this will become crook fraud. No longer just civil trespass. How do we show that? Permit me fear approximately that. You just hold your head down. But keeping my head down got harder when Cassandra escalated. December 3rd. I got a call from Boulder County Code Enforcement, a man named Rick Polson, who sounded worn out within the way authorities people do while they're managing their 50th complaint of the day. Mr. Flint, we have obtained a document that you're running an unlawful dumping website on parcel 5,593,240. What? I do not even live there. The complaint says there are piles of production particles, antique vehicles, and viable unsafe waste I'm required to look at. If the violations are showed, you'll face fines beginning at $500 in line with day. I drove up that afternoon with my telephone recording. The belongings turned into pristine. Well, besides for the 96 houses Cassandra had illegally constructed, no debris, no cars, nothing. Rick Polson met me at the doorway, clipboard in hand. He turned into approximately 50, sunburned, wearing a county vest. He walked the fringe, checked in the back of the houses, took pics. Sooner or later, he got here returned shaking his head. There is nothing here. Someone filed a false document. Who filed it? He checked his notes. Anonymous tip, however, it got here through Mrs. Whitmore's workplace as a worried citizen grievance. So, she's looking to get me fined for violations that do not exist on land she's currently occupying. Rick looked at me for an extended moment. Off the record, I've inspected 6 Whitmore tasks. Every single one had proceedings filed towards neighboring landowners right earlier than production permits were authorized. It's a sample. He passed me his card. If you need a witness statement, Name me. I drove home with that card in my pocket and rage in my chest. Cassandra wasn't just stealing my land. She'd become trying to bury me in bureaucratic quicksand while she finished construction. But what she failed to know, what no person knew besides Lydia, turned into that every flow she made turned into digging her grave deeper. By way of Christmas, 84 houses have been occupied. Households hung lights, kids built snowmen, and that I had a court date scheduled for January 12th. January 4th, 8 days earlier than my courtroom date, I got a textual content from my daughter Emma at 11 p.m. Dad, did you get arrested? A person posted on Facebook that you're harassing households in a community. It has 300 stocks. My belly dropped. I opened FB, which I hadn't used for the reason that my divorce, and determined to put up without delay. It changed into pinned on the top of the Boulder County Network watch group, written by means of Cassandra herself. Alert! Local man Dakota Flint has been stalking our family Pleasant Ridgeline Heights community, taking snapshots of youngsters, making residents' experience unsafe. He claims to own our community, no matter clear prison title. Boulder County Sheriff's conscious. Please report any sightings. Defend your families. The remarks had been a dumpster fireplace. Humans calling me a predator, suggesting I belonged on a registry. Someone posted a photograph of my Silverado with the license plate seen. Captioned, "That is his truck. Stay secure, all of us." My hands had been shaking so tough I may want to barely type. I known as Lydia, she spoke back on the primary ring. I noticed it. Don't reply. Don't remark. Do not guard yourself. She's calling me a pedophile, Lydia. My daughter's crying. My son known as asking if I am going to prison. I understand, and it's defamation and we are including it to the lawsuit. But if you engage, you appearance guilty. Let me manage this. Her voice softened. Dakota, this is what determined humans do. She is aware of we filed. She knows her attorney's seen your evidence. That is a Hail Mary to discredit you earlier than trial. It is operating. I've gotten 12 messages from people I went to school with asking what's occurring. Excellent. Screenshot the whole thing. Each share, every remark, every message. It is all evidence of malice. I spent the following 3 hours documenting the put-up unfold. By way of middle of the night, it had 847 shares. A person had created a hashtag prevent Dakota Flint. I did not sleep. The subsequent morning, my boss referred to as me into his office. Martin's a great guy. Ex-Navy ran the structural engineering firm where I might labored for 14 years. He closed the door. That's never a good sign. Dakota, I were given a call this morning from a Ability consumer. They Googled our firm and discovered a situation together with your call attached. My chest tightened. The Facebook publish. Yeah, he rubbed his face. Look, I recognize you. You are stable. However, this client's a college district, and they're anxious approximately optics. They particularly requested in case you'd be on the mission, and also you told them no. I told them you are on non-public depart pending resolution of a criminal count number, which powerful these days, you're. He pulled out an envelope. Paid go away 2 weeks. If this receives resolved, you're again at once. If it does not, he didn't end. I took the envelope. Understood. Walking to my truck, I passed Jenny from accounting. She'd constantly been pleasant. Delivered cookies at Christmas. Requested approximately my children. She saw me coming and literally crossed to the opposite facet of the parking zone. It's once I understood what Cassandra changed into doing. She wasn't just attacking my prison declare. She changed into attacking my existence, my reputation, my process, my ability to exist in my personal network. I sat in my truck and called Lydia once more. They're destroying me, I said. I simply were given put on go away. Human beings are crossing the road to keep away from me. I'm filing an emergency movement for a transient restraining order in opposition to Cassandra. Defamation, intentional infliction of emotional misery, interference with business members of the family. We will have a hearing Monday. She paused. However, Dakota, you need to understand something. This gets worse earlier than it receives better. In case you want to stroll away, I'll negotiate a settlement. You'll get something, maybe 1 to 1 million. You may flow, start over. I thought about Grandpa's word. Do not permit the bastards take what is yours. No, I stated we end this. Then buckle up due to the fact they may be going to hit more difficult. She became right. January 7th, someone spray-painted pervert on my storage door. I filed a police document. The responding officer, not Torres, a person older named Patterson, took pics with the passion of a person filling out a DMV form. Any idea who did this? Check the FB publish going around. Probable a person who believed it. He wrote something down. Will increase patrols for your region. That nighttime, I slept with a baseball bat next to my bed. January 9th, 3 days before court docket, my legal professional, Emma, called crying. A person had sent her the FB put up with a message. Your dad's a creep and each person knows it. I drove to her apartment in Fortress Collins, discovered her on her couch along with her roommate, both looking at me like I is probably radioactive. Dad, simply inform me the fact. Are you genuinely stalking human beings? I sat down and defined the whole thing. The land, Cassandra, the lawsuit, the homes. Showed her grandpa's deed, the tax receipts, Lydia's court filings. Emma studied through them, and that I watched her face exchange from worry to fury. So, she's lying approximately the entirety. Then we want to combat back. Lydia says, we look ahead to courtroom. Emma shook her head. Dad, you've been gambling defense your whole lifestyles, divorce, paintings, the whole thing, simply as soon as hit first. I did not reply, but her phrases stuck. January 11th, the night earlier than court, I were given one final message. It changed into from more than a few I failed to apprehend. Drop the lawsuit or everybody finds out what you, without a doubt, are. I forwarded it to Lydia. She texted again at once. Best. Carry your phone to court docket tomorrow. We are going to bury them. The Boulder County Courthouse smelled like ground wax and recycled air. I met Lydia inside the hallway outside Court 3C at 8:45 a.m. She wore a navy in shape that likely fee extra than my truck, wearing a leather-based briefcase that gave the look of it is able to forestall bullets. You prepared? She requested. I wasn't. My hands have been sweating. I would worn my most effective in shape, the only from my daughter's high college commencement 3 years ago, that now felt too tight in the shoulders. Do we have sufficient? We've a nuclear bomb. Except is true with me. She checked her watch. Cassandra's attorney filed a movement to dismiss the day gone by at 4:57 p.m. Conventional postponed tactic. Decide Ramirez hates that. We walked into the court docket. Cassandra sat on the defendant's desk with Brian Keir and Preston Whitmore, her husband, who eyed most effective visible in assets information. Preston become approximately 60, gray-haired gelled returned, wearing A in shape that screamed. I have settled 3 fraud complaints. He turned into whispering to Keir, both of them looking comfortable, assured. Cassandra noticed me and smiled. Sincerely smiled like she'd already gained. Judge Angela Ramirez entered, a girl in her 50s with reading glasses and zero staying power in her expression. All of us stood, be seated. Case range 2023 CV 147. Flint versus Whitmore Development LLC and associated parties. She looked at Keir. Counselor, I acquired your motion to push aside at 5:00 p.m. the previous day. You need to give an explanation for why you believe you studied it truly as suitable. Keir stood. Your Honor, the plaintiff's claim is faulty on its face. Whitmore Development holds clear name via negative possession. Mr. Flint abandoned the assets for over 3 years. Did he pay belongings taxes? Choose Ramirez interrupted. Well, sure, but then unfavorable possession fails underneath Colorado Statute 3,841,101. What else do you have? I watched Keir's confidence crack like reasonably priced concrete. Your Honor, the name agency carried out a thorough search. Ms. Chen, the decide became to Lydia. Lydia stood, and I swear the temperature within the room dropped 5 degrees. Your Honor, we are no longer here to debate unfavorable possession. That claim is frivolous. We are here due to the fact the defendants knowingly devoted fraud. She opened her briefcase. I'd want to show off an internal email from Preston Whitmore to Cassandra Whitmore dated February 18th, 2022. She passed copies to the Choose and Keir. I craned my neck to see. Keir's face went white. Choose Ramirez studied it, and her eyebrows went up. Counselor Keir, did you realize approximately this electronic mail? Your Honor, I have in no way visible that file. Become submitted in discovery last week, Lydia stated easily. Perhaps it got misplaced to your office. What does it say? I whispered. Lydia slid me a duplicate. I read it, and my coronary heart began pounding. From Preston Whitmore at Ridgeline Capital, Calm 2C Whitmore at Whitmore Improvement, Calm Difficulty Vintage Mill Street Property Chance Evaluation. Cassie spoke with our title lawyer. The Flint parcel isn't always deserted. Proprietor. William Flint's grandson has been paying property taxes continuously on account that 2019. Damaging ownership declare may not maintain up in courtroom. However, if we move speedy, document the app claim, get lets in permitted, start selling plenty earlier than absolutely everyone notices, we will create enough chaos that Flint either settles reasonably priced or receives buried in litigation charges. Worst case, we construct the whole lot, record financial disaster, permit the name coverage organizations kind it out. We've got achieved this earlier then. For Aspen Challenge 2019, danger degree medium, reward level 16 no gross. I read it 3 instances. They had known from the beginning. They'd recognized they have been stealing my land. Your Honor, Lydia persisted. This email proves the defendants engaged in intentional fraud. They knew Mr. Flint owned the belongings. They knew their negative ownership declare turned into baseless. They proceeded besides because they calculated correctly, I'd add, that the majority can't afford to combat a multi-million-dollar legal struggle. Decide Ramirez looked at Preston and Cassandra. Is that this email proper? Preston commenced to stand, but Keir grabbed his arm. Your Honor, we want to talk over with our clients. That appears like a yes. The judge closed the folder. Right here's what will occur. Motion to disregard is denied. This case is proceeding to trial expedited schedule. Inside the period in between, I'm issuing a temporary restraining order. Whitmore Development will stop all income, advertising, and transfer of assets associated with Ridgeline Heights pending decision. She looked at Cassandra. And Mrs. Whitmore, if I see one more FB put up, one greater anonymous tip to code enforcement, or one more threat directed at Mr. Flint, I'm able to maintain you in contempt. Are we clear? Cassandra's face had long gone from assured to ashen. Sure, Your Honor, she whispered. Walking out of the courthouse, Lydia turned to me. That email, I were given it from a whistleblower, certainly one of Preston's former commercial enterprise companions who got screwed inside the Aspen deal. He has been ready 5 years for revenge. How did you find him? She smiled. I am superb at my process. For the first time in 4 months, I felt like I should breathe. That night, I bought a bottle of whiskey I couldn't afford and sat on my lower back porch looking snowfall. My smartphone buzzed every 5 minutes. Emma, my son Tyler, Marcus from Wyoming, even my ex-wife Jennifer sending a careful, heard you had an amazing day in court. However, the message that mattered came from Lydia at 9:47 p.m. My workplace tomorrow, 10:00 a.m. carry coffee. We're building the kill shot. I confirmed up at 9:30 with big coffees and a field of donuts that seemed appropriate for planning someone's legal destruction. Lydia's conference room had a whiteboard covering one entire wall already half of packed with dates, names, and colored arrows connecting them like a conspiracy concept map. You brought donuts? She grabbed a glazed one. I love you greater now. What is all this? This, she stated, tapping the board with a marker, is how we flip your own home dispute right into a crook referral. She drew a circle around Preston's name. The email turned into the grenade. Now we are bringing the artillery. She'd spent the preceding night together with her paralegal tracking down each venture the Whitmore had touched in the final decade. There have been 7, all in Colorado mountain cities, all following the identical pattern. Locate land with doubtful name or elderly owners. Report competitive claims. Construct speedy. Promote quicker. Permit coverage companies smooth up the mess. They're now not builders, Lydia stated. They're land pirates with LLC. However, here's what made my case distinct. I had documentation. Grandpa's meticulous statistics going lower back to 1971. Each wooden sail, every fence repair. Each belongings tax charge logged in those tobacco-scented ledgers. My own tax receipts, survey maps, snapshots with GPS timestamps. Maximum of their victims have been old, terrible, or did not keep information. Lydia explained, They either settled cheap or lost in court docket due to the fact they could not prove nonstop ownership. You may show the whole lot. She pulled out a yellow legal pad. Right here's the strategy. Section 1, Discovery. We depose Preston, Cassandra, their name, organization, their lender, and every contractor who pulled or allow. Someone always cracks. Usually the identify business enterprise due to the fact they don't need to lose their license. I remembered my divorce. Legal professional had explained depositions once. Essentially, you sit in a room and solution questions underneath oath at the same time as a stenographer kinds the whole lot. Human beings think they are able to lie. But legal professionals like Lydia know the way to ask the equal questions 17 distinctive approaches till you contradict yourself. It's like fishing with dynamite. Phase 2, she persevered. We report an amended complaint including RICO charges. RICO, like the mafia, racketeer, motivated, and corrupt groups act. If we can show they have got engaged in a sample of fraud across a couple of initiatives, which we are able to, it turns into federal. And federal manor treble damages. She wrote at the board 163 for E88 Millers. That's what they may be searching at if they lose. My mouth went dry. Can they even pay that? No, that is why they will settle. But right, here's the beautiful component. Preston and Cassandra, in my opinion, assured the construction loans. If Whitmore Development goes bankrupt, the lenders come after their private belongings, homes, cars, bank accounts, everything. She became enjoying this. I may want to inform by the manner her eyes lit up while she talked about asset seizures. What do I want to do? I requested. 3 matters. First, I need you to map every single goat you made to the belongings. Dates, instances, what you saw, who you talked to, Deputy Torres, that code enforcement man, Rick Polson, anybody who witnessed their harassment. I pulled out my cell phone. I have been keeping a log considering the fact that's September. Clever. Second, we want allies. Each person in the community who's been hurt through the whites, former employees, neighbors, contractors who did not get paid. I need a list. I thought approximately Rick Polson's remark. I have inspected 6 Whitmore initiatives. Every unmarried one had lawsuits filed towards neighboring landowners. I realize wherein to start, I stated. Third, Lydia leaned ahead. This is going public, not FB. It is Cassandra's playground. We are talking neighborhood news. I've a touch at Channel 9 Denver who loves company fraud memories. Woman named Patricia Hughes, investigative reporter. She's gained 2 Emmys for taking down a slumlord and a crooked county commissioner. You need me on TV. I want us on television. You, me, and every own family who sold a house in Ridgeline Heights, questioning they had been getting the Yankee dream. Because right here's the aspect, Dakota. The ones 96 families, they're not the enemy. They may be victims, identical as you. While that is over, they will own their homes free and clean, and Cassandra will personal not anything, however prison payments. She exceeded me a folder. This is the deposition agenda. Preston is going first subsequent Thursday, Cassandra the week after. You need to be there for both. I want them to see your face whilst they are compelled to inform the reality. I opened the folder, noticed the dates, the locations, the list of questions. Lydia deliberate to invite. It's study like a homicide weapon. When this is over, I said, how a lot will I owe you? Less than you suspect. Due to the fact while we win, the court awards legal professionals' fees. The Whitmore pays me all $60,000. She smiled. It truly is the stunning aspect, approximately fraud instances. The responsible birthday party pays every person's payments. I left her office at midday with a plan, a motive, and for the primary time due to the fact August, a sense that justice wasn't only a phrase human beings said after they meant revenge. It turned into something you constructed cautiously, methodically, with receipts. Preston Whitmore's deposition changed into scheduled for January 18th at 9:00 a.m. in a glass-walled convention room at the 14th ground of a Denver office constructing. Through the home windows, you could see the Rockies, snow-covered peaks glowing in the morning solar, detached to the carnage, approximately to take place interior. Preston arrived in a charcoal suit, along with his personal attorney, a lady named Diane Kelso, who had the pointy, predatory look of someone who bills $800 an hour. He did not look at me, not as soon as. The court docket reporter, A tiny female with a stenograph system that clicked like anxious insects swore him in. Lydia started mild. Name, cope with, profession. Preston responded in a bored monotone like he'd done this 100 instances, in all likelihood had. Mr. Whitmore, do you apprehend this email? Lydia slid a copy throughout the desk. The February 18th smoking gun. Preston glanced at it. I do. Did you write it? Yes. So you knew in February of 2022 that Dakota Flint was the legal proprietor of the old Mill Street assets. Diane Kelso leaned forward. Don't solution that, Lydia smiled. Your Honor granted a discovery order, he asked a reply. Preston shifted. I knew a person named Flint become indexed in county information, but our name corporation counseled us the assets became correctly deserted under which title organization? Rocky Mountain Identify Institution? Lydia made a word. I watched Preston's jaw tighten. He knew what become coming. She became going to depose the title organization next, and they'd either verify his lie or throw him under the bus to save their license. She requested 50 more questions, every one tightening the noose. With the aid of 11:00 a.m., Preston becomes sweating through his shirt. By using noon, he'd contradicted himself 4 times. When Lydia ultimately said, "No in addition questions," he nearly sprinted out of the room. Diane Kelso stayed at the back of. She looked at Lydia with something like expert respect. Your purchaser ought to settle, she stated quietly. Your consumer must have concept of that earlier than committing fraud. Name a number, Lydia closed her notebook. 10 million. Plus, he resigns from every company board, dissolves Ridgeline Capital, and individually finances the switch of all 96 homes to their current residents at cost. Oh, and a written apology. Diane laughed quick and bitter. He'll by no means agree to that. Then we're going to see him in trial, and I'll carry Channel 9 with me. 2 days later, the escalation I'd been dreading finally got here. I got a name from Tyler, my son. At 6:00 p.m., he was 23, operating as a line-prepared dinner in Citadel Collins at the same time as completing his culinary degree. His voice was shaking. Dad, a person got here to the restaurant. My blood went cold. What passed off? This guy in a match said he was a personal investigator looking into you. Requested my manager if I used to be dependable, in case you'd ever been violent, if there had been incidents he ought to recognize approximately. Tyler's respiratory became ragged. Dad, my supervisor pulled me apart after and requested if there is something I need to tell him. I could lose my task. I closed my eyes. What become the investigator's call? He gave me a card. Thomas Brennan, Apex Investigations. I wrote it down. Tyler, pay attention to me. Do not talk to him again. If he comes returned, inform him to touch my lawyer. I will deal with this. When we hung up, I, known as Lydia, were given her voicemail. Left a message that probable sounded unhinged. She referred to as again at 8:00 p.m., I recognize. They hired a pie to dig up dust. It's textbook intimidation. He went to my son's place of job. He is seeking to get Tyler fired, and it is witness tampering. That is a prison. Her voice became ice. Ahead me that Enterprise card picture. I'm filing an emergency motion the following day morning, but the hits kept coming. January 23rd, I were given an electronic mail from the IRS. Note of audit. They have been reviewing my tax returns from the past 3 years, citing irregularities reported via a 3rd birthday party. There had been no irregularities. I was a W-2 employee with easy taxes. This become harassment, pure and easy. I forwarded it to Lydia. She called right away. They're burning bridges now. This is what takes place whilst rich human beings panic. They throw cash at problems until the problems leave. It is working. I can't find the money for an IRS audit on top of the entirety else. You may not have to. The IRS criticism is anonymous. However, we can subpoena Apex Investigations consumer information. If we show the Whitmore filed a false IRS file, this is every other criminal. She paused. Dakota, they are making mistakes. Determined people continually do. January 25th, the errors got worse. A person leaked the Ridgeline Heights sales contracts to a Boulder real estate blog. All 96 contracts, showing that customers had paid between $450,000 and $530,000 for houses built on disputed land. The blog's headline: Luxury developer sold houses on stolen assets. Consumers can also lose the whole lot. My phone exploded. Emails from panicked homeowners. A girl named Sarah Chen, referred to as me crying, uses her entire lifestyle savings for the down fee on residence quantity 67. And now her title insurance employer turned into refusing to cowl the declare due to the fraud allegations. Mr. Flint, please. I have 2 children. We moved here from California. This is meant to be our all-the-time home. I did not recognize what to say. I'm no longer looking to take your property. I'm seeking to forestall the folks that stole from both people. But what occurs in case you win? Do we get evicted? No. You may very own your house. The developer pays for it. And in the event that they cannot, I had no answer for that. That nighttime, Lydia called with information. Channel 9 wants to interview you. Patricia Hughes, the investigative reporter. She's doing a phase on predatory land builders. It airs February 2nd, 1 week before trial. What do I say? The fact that you're combating for your grandfather's legacy. Which you're not the enemy. The Whitmores are. And that each family in Ridgeline Heights merits to hold their home. Eye concept about Sarah Chen's voice breaking at the telephone. Set it up, I said. The Channel 9 interview turned into scheduled for January 30th at my residence. Patricia Hughes arrived at 2 p.m. with a cameraman named Steve and enough lighting device to movie a wonder movie. Patricia became mid-40s, gray-streaked hair and a sensible ponytail, carrying jeans and a blazer that stated, "I am professional, however I've climbed via dumpsters for a story." She shook my hand. "Mr. Flint, I've been masking actual property fraud for 12 years. Your case is the maximum brazen component I've ever visible." We sat in my dwelling room, which I'd frantically cleaned that morning, shoving grimy laundry into closets like a youngster before prom. Steve positioned lights whilst Patricia reviewed her notes. "I am going to invite about your grandfather, the belongings, and what came about while you located the improvement. Simply talk to me. Now, not the digital camera. We're going to edit later." The interview lasted 90 mins. I informed her the whole lot. Grandpa's ledgers, Cassandra's contempt, the FB smear campaign, Preston's email, the households caught inside the middle. Patricia's questions were sharp but fair. She made me feel like I was speaking to a pal, now not performing for a target market. At the end, she became off the digital camera. Off the file, I contacted Cassandra Whitmore for remark. She threatened to sue me for defamation if we air this. Will you still run it? Patricia smiled, simply. Threats imply I am on to something. The section aired February 2 at 6:00 p.m. Her lawyer called this morning begging for a settlement convention. What did you say? I stated we're going to see them in courtroom. The silence on the line felt heavy. 3 more days, Lydia said. Live safe, live quiet, and get geared up to look at the entirety burn. I hung up and stared out Emma's apartment window at the snow falling on Fortress Collins. Somewhere out there, Cassandra and Preston have been making plans their remaining desperate pass. I just hoped I would see it coming. February 9th, trial day. I placed on the same in shape I might worn to the first listening to, nevertheless too tight within the shoulders, and drove to Boulder with Emma driving shotgun. She'd insisted on coming, stated I wished circle of relatives there. Tyler had wanted to return too, however he couldn't afford to miss work. No longer after the pie incident nearly priced him his job. The courthouse automobile parking space become chaos. 2 news trucks, Channel 9 and a local Boulder station had cameras installation on the steps. Patricia Hughes spotted me and waved, but I saved my head down. Lydia had been clean. No media comments before trial. Inside, courtroom 3C was packed. All 96 households from Ridgeline Heights had received notices approximately the trial, and at least 40 of them had proven up. I identified Sarah Chen sitting 3 rows back, the girl who'd called me crying about her all the time domestic. She looked at me with an expression I could not examine. Desire, maybe, or terror that she'd lose the whole thing. Cassandra and Preston sat at the protection desk with their attorneys, Brian Kemper and Diane Kelso, plus greater lawyers I failed to recognize. They'd introduced in reinforcements. Cassandra wore a cream-colored match that probably cost $5,000. Her face changed into perfectly composed. However, I may want to see her arms shaking while she reached for her water glass. Judge Ramirez entered. All of us stood. Earlier than we start, the decide stated, searching over her reading glasses at the packed gallery. I want to make something clean. That is a court of law, no longer a circus. Anybody who disrupts court cases may be eliminated. Understood. Murmurs of settlement. Miss Chen, opening assertion. Lydia stood and the room went silent. She didn't want a microphone. Her voice carried like thunder across water. Your Honor, this case is about robbery. Not the sort that occurs in darkish alleys with masks and guns, but the type that takes place in boardrooms with LLC and cast file. Dakota Flint inherited 47 acres from his grandfather, a man who paid cash for that land in 1971 and meticulously maintained it for 48 years. When Mr. Flint couldn't go to for 3 years because of work and circle of relatives obligations, the defendants noticed an possibility. She walked in the direction of the jury container. This became a bench trial. No jury, but antique conduct die hard. They did not simply build on his land. They planned it. They researched it. They knew exactly what they had been doing. She held up Preston's email, blown as much as poster size. This email, written by Preston Whitmore, proves they knew Dakota Flint changed into the prison proprietor. They knew their negative possession declare might fail. They built besides due to the fact they calculated correctly that the majority cannot have enough money to combat. She paused. Let that sink in. However, they made one mistake. They picked the incorrect victim. Because Dakota Flint kept each receipt, every tax payment, each survey map, and he refused to stop. She grew to become to stand Cassandra and Preston. The defendants committed fraud. They broke into Mr. Flint's domestic. They hired private investigators to bother his children. They filed fake IRS court cases. They became his life into a nightmare because he dared to assert his legal rights. Lydia walked back to our table. Your Honor, we're not asking for mercy. We are soliciting for justice. And we've got the receipts. She sat down. I exhaled for what felt like the first time in 3 minutes. Diane Kelso stood for the protection. She attempted, I'll supply her that, argued that the Identify organization had made a sincere mistake, that Preston's email changed into taken out of context. That negative possession regulation is complex and frequently misunderstood. However, Decide Ramirez wasn't shopping for it. I ought to see it in her face, the narrowed eyes, the tight line of her mouth. The trial lasted 7 hours. Lydia, known as witnesses, the Identify company consultant who admitted taking a bribe. Rick Polson from Code Enforcement, who testified about the sample of false lawsuits. Deputy Torres, who described the harassment marketing campaign. She entered Grandpa's ledgers into evidence. Those tobacco-scented pages that proved continuous possession for 50 years. Preston took the stand. Lydia destroyed him in 40 minutes. Each question changed into a entice. Each solution dug him deeper. By the stop, he was stammering, contradicting his own deposition testimony, seeking to Diane Kelso for rescue that never got here. Cassandra refused to testify. Fifth modification. Her legal professionals in all likelihood begged her now not to. She'd had been eviscerated at 4:47 p.m. Judge Ramirez announced she'd issue a ruling inside 24 hours. We filed out into the hallway. The homeowners mobbed me. Sarah Chen grabbed my arm. What takes place to us, she requested. If you win, can we lose our houses? I looked at Lydia. She nodded. You hold your houses, I stated loud enough for everyone to pay attention. Every single certainly one of you. The Whitmore committed fraud, now not you. You'll personal your homes loose and clean. This is the agreement. We are traumatic. The group went silent, then someone began clapping, then another. Within seconds, 40 people were applauding in a courthouse hallway. Cassandra walked beyond, flanked via her legal professionals. She looked at me as soon as, her eyes complete of natural hatred, then disappeared into the elevator. Outside, Patricia Hughes caught me at the courthouse steps. Mr. Flint, how are you feeling? I looked at the cameras at Emma standing beside me. On the Rockies inside the distance, snow-blanketed and everlasting, like my grandfather's watching, I said, and he's proud. That nighttime, the clip went viral, 3 million perspectives in 12 hours. The next morning, Judge Ramirez issued her ruling. We received the entirety. Choose Ramirez's ruling become 18 pages lengthy. but the first paragraph stated the whole law. The defendants engaged in a calculated systematic scheme to defraud Dakota Flint of his lawful property through false damaging possession claims, bribery of public officers, and intentional misrepresentation. Such conduct is reprehensible and could now not be tolerated by this courtroom. The order gave me complete name to all 47 acres, consisting of the 96 houses. It presented me $4.22 million in damages for trespass, emotional distress, and lack of use. It required the Weitzers to pay Lydia's prison expenses, $730, and it referred the case to America Lawyers Workplace for crook prosecution. Cassandra and Preston had been finished. Ridgeline Capital dissolved within every week. Their personal belongings, the Range Rover, the Aspen vacation home, Cassandra's Ring series, went to auction to pay lenders. Preston became indicted on 6 federal fraud charges. Cassandra took a plea deal, 3 years probation, $500,000 restitution, and a lifetime ban from Colorado Actual Estate Improvement. The title employer lost its license. Brian Kemper resigned from his law firm to avoid disbarment. However, the ruling created a new hassle. What to do with 96 families who'd sold houses on my land? I may want to have compelled them out, bought the houses myself, pocketed some other $16 million. That is what the regulation allowed. That is what a whole lot of people expected. Alternatively, I called a Metropolis Hall assembly at Ridgeline Heights on March 15th. All 96 households confirmed up, cramming into the incomplete clubhouse that Cassandra had promised, however never constructed. Sarah Chen stood in front, protecting her daughter's hand. An aged couple named the Rodriguezes sat close to the lower back, searching terrified. These were not villains. I stood at the front with Lydia beside me. I realize you're scared, I started. You bought homes in precise faith. You probably did nothing wrong, and I am not here to punish you for someone else's crime. The room changed into silent enough to listen snow melting on the roof. Here's what I'm proposing. I am moving ownership of all 96 houses to the Ridgeline Heights Community Trust, a non-profit we're setting up these days. Each family will very own their domestic through the trust, at the charge you firstly paid. No mortgages, no interest, just what you have already invested. If you've paid $485,000, you owe nothing extra. In case you nevertheless have bills left, you finish them to the trust at zero hobby. Someone gasped. Sarah Chen began crying. The agree with will use those price range to preserve roads, cowl property taxes, and establish a scholarship fund for youngsters in this community. My grandfather believed land was approximately legacy, not earnings. This is his legacy. The applause started out slowly, then built like a thunderstorm. Humans had been hugging, crying, shouting thank yous throughout the room. An aged man, Mr. Rodriguez, walked up and shook my hand so tough, I concept my shoulder would dislocate. You're an amazing man, he stated. Your grandfather raised you right. The scholarship fund released in September. The William Flint Memorial Scholarship, $10,000 annually for a Colorado pupil reading, engineering, forestry, or environmental technology. Emma helped me set it up. Stated Grandpa would have cherished that his ledgers full of wooden sale facts have been now funding someone's education. I kept 5 acres for myself on the north quit of the belongings, the component with the vintage growth pines Grandpa had refused to log. Built a small cabin there, bedrooms, nothing fancy. Sold my house on the town and moved in final October. Wake up every morning to the odor of pine and coffee. Watch deer graze out of doors my window. Tyler visits on weekends. Emma brings her boyfriend, a law scholar, certainly. Even Jennifer, my ex-spouse, came with the aid of as soon as together with her new husband. Said she became happy with me. That felt abnormal, but correct. Patricia Hughes did a comply with uptail in December. From property theft to community triumph, how one guy became injustice into justice. It won her 3rd Emmy. Last week, Sarah Chen's daughter drew me a photo. A crayon residence with a stick determined categorized Mr. Dakota retaining a giant deed. It's on my fridge now, held up through a magnet formed like Colorado. I reflect on consideration on Grandpa's notice on occasion. Don't allow the bastards take what's yours. He was proper. However, what's mine isn't always just land or money. It is knowing that 96 families sleep competently due to the fact I didn't cease. It's a scholarship that'll assist some kid who reminds me of myself. Broke, stubborn, just trying to build something. It's justice. The actual kind, the type that heals. So, right here's my question for you. Have you ever handled an HOA nightmare, a property dispute, person who thought they might steamroll you because they had money and also you failed to? Drop your story within the comments. Allows construct a library of the way normal human beings beat corrupt structures. And if this story mattered to you, if it reminded you that good people can nonetheless win, hit that subscribe button due to the fact I have got extra testimonies like this. Tales approximately the little guy outsmarting the system. Stories with receipts. Next week, City Council denied my enterprise allow. So I found the bylaw that made me untouchable. See you then. And recollect, preserve your receipts, they all.